Namaste and welcome. I'm Bjorn, your guide through this ego development journey. In the previous video we talked about the ego, what this is, and if you haven't seen it, please go back and have a look at it. It's going to give you a lot more context for this video. So, let's dive into it. This is the different stages and phases of the ego. The ego doesn't stay at one place, it moves and develops as we learn and grow our awareness. You can see it as putting glasses on. The different stages have a completely different view how they self-identify, but also how they see others. So this video here will give you an overview of the different stages and phases and what they mean, so you will understand this in a better way for the next videos to come. So the different phases are pre-conventional, conventional, which is this side here, post-conventional, and transcendence, which is this side here. And we're gonna go through what that means. So you have impulsive and opportunist. That is the pre-conventional stages. That is kids. So from 1 to 12 inhabit these stages. So this development videos will focus on the adult side of the ego development. So we're not going to cover them too much. The impulsive we're not going to cover, but we will cover the opportunist because that is 5% of the population within this stage. So how does this sense of self or this ego see the world? Well, this ego, you can call it self-centered, or because it views itself as getting its need and desires fulfilled as quick as possible. So that is how this ego gets its sense of self, fulfilling needs and desires. How does this ego view others then? It views others as allies to get their needs and desires fulfilled, or as competitors that are competing to get their needs and desires fulfilled. So they're very much a survivor. They see the world as a battlefield where you compete for the limited resources. So that is 5% of the population. Then we'll leave the pre-conventional and head into the conventional stage, and that is where the diplomat is. The diplomat is 10 to 15% of the population. This stage becomes group-centric. It gets its sense of self. The ego gets its self-identity through a group they're in. A group could be a family unit, any group up to a country. They get the self-identity within that group. How does this ego view others then? Well, they view others as two groups. Number one, the group they're in. That is where they get the sense of self, the self-identity from. And group two, everyone else. So the previous stage was me against the world, where this stage is us against the world. A strength of this ego is they're very good at keeping peace, harmony within the group they're in. A downside to this ego is they do everything to maintain peace, even if it means getting their needs and desires to the side. So they sacrifice everything for the group, but they're good at communicating and keeping peace, hence the diplomat. So our next stage is the expert. That's 30 to 40% of the population. So this ego here, you can call is skill-centric. It gets its sense of self through the skills and knowledge it has. How does this ego view others then? They view others as they see them and they compare themselves to others. So if someone has within their field of expertise more skill than them, they're very happy to listen and learn and measure up to them to become better. However, if this person isn't as good as them within their field of expertise, they can look down upon them. A strength of this ego is they're very good at performing tasks to high standard. A downside to this ego is perfectionism, and they're hard time collaborating with others because they have such a high standard on their job. So perfectionism and a hard time collaborating. Where the previous stage were happy to collaborate within a group, this one like to be more individual again. That takes us to the next stage, the achiever stage, 30 to 40%. How does this ego get its self-identity? It gets its self-identity through achieving desired goals they put on themselves. So they set goals and they work to get there. So they have a longer view timeline. They can see 5 to 10 years into the future, where the expert didn't have those skills. And they see others as collaborators to help them achieve these goals, because they realize is if I want to achieve my goals, I need others to help me. So they're good to see the skills and abilities of others, so great leaders, and inspire them to help them achieve goals. So the world at the moment is run by achievers. So that leaves the conventional. Now we're going to head into the post-conventional. So a shift happens here. This line here represents where you head into the post-conventional. And at 10 to 15% we have the individualist. Here this shift is it's a big shift happen. These stages here, self or your ego, is socially programmed. That means your sense of self has been programmed by external forces. School, family, community, culture, country, and so on. Here, your ego or sense of self has been internally constructed. So here you start looking at yourself from a fourth perspective. You can take a step out of yourself and see yourself and look at your core values and core beliefs and see where they came from and if they serve you without being so emotionally connected to them, and change. That wasn't possible at these stages. That happens once you leave to the post-conventional stage. So that means this is where the awakening happens, when people wake up and they can see their life from a higher viewpoint. I guess many people that are watching this might have that experience. You can see your old life is not aligning with you anymore, your old beliefs and so on. So here the individuals can start getting a sense of self, the new identity from themselves. So they get this sense of self through authentic living, being individual, be true to themselves. How do they view others then? They view others as other individuals on their journey. So here they start seeing others as similar to them, because they're just like them, have the struggles and challenges, so they understand where other people are coming from. However, a weakness of this stage is they can also look back at others and say, come on, wake up, get out of the matrix, sort of preaching to others to wake up and try to help everyone to exit the matrix, if you like, and wake up. So that is a weakness. A strength is here, you can, for the first time, really aligning your goals with your authentic self. That is not socially validated. They're validated for yourself. You start going after goals that you really want. But they can be quite judgmental towards others. And that is at 4 to 6% we have the strategists. That's the next stage. They have an even bigger view of themselves. They get the sense of self from being a strategic thinker and a leader, and they see others as parts of the big whole. They realize that everyone has a part to play. They're now very judgmental to the previous stages, because they realize that everyone is at where they need to be. So if someone want to stay within the expert stage the whole life, that is completely fine, because that's where they're needed. They have a more tolerant view of others. So that's a strength. They can plan and see and become more empathetic towards others. A weakness is they think they have come as far as they come, and they can see everything and they see all the system, but they're still within the ego world, because here the alchemists at 1% of the population, so very few people are within this stage according to the research. Here your sense of self start to disappear. So you'll get your self-identity, you realize you don't really have a fixed self-identity, because you see yourself going through different stages and changing. So you see your sense of self as a more fluid experience, that you don't have a fixed self-identity. And how you view others, the same thing. You see others as parts of the whole, changing and evolving their sense of self. So here you start losing your thoughts and action and habits, because you realize that is all within the ego world. That takes us into the final, which is less than 1%, which is the unitive stage. Here you lose your sense of self. How you get your self-identity here is with everything. You're part of the whole. The whole is you. How does this ego view others then? They view others as part of them, part of the whole, coming from the same source, if you like. So the way I like to picture this stage is, when you get into a state of flow, when you're in this state of flow, everything is gone, time disappears, your sense of self disappears. I picture a unitive state to be the same, in a constant state of flow. So let's go back at this a little bit. When you're born, you don't have a self-identity yet. Your parents give you a self-identity, but you as a child are just one with the all, an unconscious union. But as you travel across here and you get to this side, you become conscious union. You lose your sense of self, but consciously losing your sense of self or your ego. So here you have a strong sense of self, and you have a big separation between others. But as you travel across the different stages, you start losing this strong sense of self, but also losing the separation from others. You start seeing others as part of you. So that's the major difference here. So this is an overview. Another thing that's quite interesting to know, that is, this works as a spiral. You can come up, you can come down. And it's all about point of views, to be able to communicate, to understand where each and every one is at, how they view the world. So with this said, a diplomat cannot see the point of view of a strategist or an alchemist, but an alchemist can see the point of view of a diplomat. You can inhabit the previous stages. You grow within them, you remember them. Same as you can remember what it's like to be a child, but a child can't think about how being an adult. Same thing here, we can go back down and have a look at the previous stages. So that's quite important to know, that each stage have a completely different view of the world as the other, and it's not good or bad, it's just different point of views. It's not better to be higher than lower. It's just you changing your point of view depends where you're at from your unique perspective. Excellent. So hopefully this gave you a bit more overview of the different phases and stages of ego development. We're gonna go deeper and explain the different egos and something called center of gravity, which is really important to know our center of gravity, what this means and how this affects you. If you like this video, like and subscribe, and please share with someone who will get value out of this video. As always, thank you for staying to the end. I appreciate you, and namaste, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.